Da-da-da-da-da.
Hey everybody. So there's not going to be a lot of show content today because we're minus a church, we're minus an Ayrton, but
I actually sent a link earlier. I don't know if you saw it. Presenting what I believe Ayrton is currently doing.
yeah, I saw that. But
You don't wish to subject our audience to it.
no, but I want to subject them to another option of what they're doing.
Scramble the jets on my position. Operation Inferno has started.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's about right.
the more I think about that, could you imagine doing that concept straight? We do a complete global war on terror allegory where Satan is actually Saddam Hussein. The United States Marines pull Satan out of a spider hole.
I mean, we saw that. That was called South Park.
Right, right. But like, what if it? And like, imagine the U.S. general having to explain, "Sir, it's hell. Why do bullets work?" So it turns out they only have magic in our world, and the physics is the same in both worlds. So bullets and bombs work. Who'd
Right.
thunk it? I mean, that's a fun idea. We're unfortunately not going to be talking about fun ideas, and I'm going to talk about the least offensive thing I consumed for the dozens of people who may be watching this at some point
Well,
in time.
I mean, I have a stupid thing to talk about.
What's the stupid thing to talk about? How they fired all the original 5e creative crew?
No, no, no. That's a happy accident. No. I want to talk about the fact that you can't say something reasonable about Superman and not have
Mm-hmm.
people talk to you like you're an idiot.
Well, what kind of reasonable thing about Superman are we talking about?
So, a guy on the internet, always a bad place to start, said, "You really think Superman, who grew up attending church in blood red conservative middle America every Sunday, would have the same ideological beliefs as someone from the blue coast Los Angeles?"
I mean,
Right?
he would probably have the same ideological beliefs as someone who came from the Northeast,
Right.
with a little bit of Midwest
So,
flavor in there.
so I said, this is my opinion, and I actually believe this has always been true. Okay, because the implication of the classic phrase "truth, justice, and the American way" is that this is what Americans aspire to. Okay, this is what we actually want to be versus what we do. I said, Superman perceives a world beyond chest thumping for any political affiliation. If anything, our fixation with left or right, red or blue, is disappointing and sad to a person who aspires for mankind as a whole to be elevated to its best possible self, free of bias and pain. Right? Because if Superman could fix all the problems, he would. Right? He wants little poor children in Africa and the Middle East to have the same opportunities and positives we have here, right? He wants us to stop hating each other. I don't think this is a controversial opinion, right? Cuz he's fucking Superman. He can inspire everyone.
That
And
was
yet,
actually a plot point of a DC comic when they tried to reveal all the characters' political leanings.
right, to which this mental giant said, "That's only a recent thing. It was only recently, like the last 20 years or so, where they tried to push to make him a hero for the world instead of truth, justice, and the American way." And it's like, you dense motherfucker. you fucking worm. I don't care what they tried to push. Because if you want to talk about DC fumbling the ball, there's a fucking laundry list of decades of DC not being able to handle its shit to draw from. Right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That doesn't invalidate the idea that Superman, the character, is more universal than political party. If because as much as I hate to say this, and I really want to say I hate to say this because it is so fucking retarded. Okay, and it is from a source that I hate because I don't like the comic. It was written by someone who didn't like comic books. It is vile and wrong, and you shouldn't watch it. If you're talking about Superman being a red-blooded American, you're saying Superman is Homelander. Okay? That's the
Mhm.
joke, people. Superman is Homelander if Superman gave a shit about political party. Okay? And we
Well,
can even expand it. You can say that Superman is Dr. Manhattan if he was left-leaning, with the same fucking results. Is that
well,
he's a
hold up.
superhero?
Well, hold up. Homelander in the TV show is dumb. Homelander in the comics is better.
And
Homelander in
still
the
dumb.
comics, well, yes, but it's a better kind of dumb. He was someone who's gaslit into thinking he was schizophrenic and violent and hurting people.
Sure. But
It's stupid, but it's a more acceptable stupid.
but what I'm getting at is that the quintessential essence of a Superman as an idealistic image of what we could be and should be to each other is actually undermined if you apply him to any specific group or ideology, regardless of what that fucking ideology is. Okay?
Mhm.
As a for instance, let's look over at our friends at Marvel for a minute. There's Captain America, right? Now, every country has tried to have its own Captain America project. Got Captain
Mhm.
Britain, you got Sabra, you got all these other Captain America wannabes, right? And if they're not villains, implying that there's a weakness in the fundamental person that they tried to make a Captain America, they're kind of lame, right?
Mhm.
But here's the thing: not only one do we have John Walker, right? So
Mhm.
America admits its own bipolarity because USA Agent is what if Captain America, but political rather than idealistic, right? But
And
what's
then we
more,
also have Sam Wilson. What if
right,
Captain America, but he's political and black?
right, but also some of those crappier international Captain Americas, like Sabra, right? If you actually read their books, woe betide that I encourage people to fucking read, right? What you find is that they aspire to the example set by Captain America and they struggle against their own government,
Mhm.
right? The
Like
people
like
that
Captain
want to
America.
the people that want to politicize them hold them back from being good, which is why you get weird things like Sunfire. Sunfire is a mutant,
Mhm.
right? Mutants are universally despised in
Ex-
Marveldom, right?
Except for in Japan, apparently.
But in Japan, Sunfire is a national hero. He is the single greatest dude Japan has ever produced because he is the living manifestation of the rising sun. And it's like, yeah! And he's an X-Man, and he's an actual hero, and he does good things. And I believe he's at least once died to save people.
Mhm.
It's almost
And
like heroism transcends political access.
you see, man, if I knew you were going to go off of this rant, I would have come up with something different as our segue. So I saw
Oh,
three
man.
pieces of So I saw three pieces of garbage, and we're gonna go from
Okay.
the least terrible
We
to
gave you your
Doctor Who.
sugar, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the medicine.
Yeah, we're gonna go from the least terrible one I saw to Doctor Who.
Okay.
You know, so there's this movie out called Alto Nights. Have you seen anything about it?
Isn't that the one about mobsters?
It is.
I
It's
I
about
heard
the
it. I heard that it sort of came and went with a whimper, and that it basically it's not that nobody would watch it; it's that it didn't get any advertisement. Nobody tried to uplift it.
yes. So let me do my small part to uplift this movie.
Excellent.
It's not bad. It's not really good, but it's sad. It's a movie that makes you feel sad. So we have the conflict between Vito Genovese and Frank Costello. Both central figures in the New York Mafia story, played by Robert De Niro, who is very old.
I mean, I would presume that's actually the source of the sad.
Yes.
It's a skilled hand at what he does, going back to what he knows, and what he knows is I'm a mob guy in mobster movies.
Oh no,
That
that's
doesn't
not the sad part.
that doesn't necessarily mean the mobster movie is going to be good. But proceed.
That's not the sad part. The sad part is
Okay.
he's sitting for 75% of the movie.
Ah,
And he walks in a shamble, as you do when you're really old and your health's starting to get you.
right.
His acting is serviceable to good. His having Frank Costello duel with the Kefauver Commission was a really interesting scene. There's lots of good scenes in the movie, but it lacks, the visceral mob action of Robert De Niro being a mob guy, doing mob things. Your central plot tensions are these are two guys who are as close as brothers, but they were very different. Frank wanted to build things and establish an empire, and Vito just wanted to take things because he was a criminal. And he thought Frank was kind of stupid for, not just embracing the fact you're a goddamn criminal.
Right.
I mean, I would recommend that movie if for no other reason. It's sort of this final phase of De Niro's career where he's taking big cash payouts for these roles that really aren't worthy of him as an actor. It really kind of makes you appreciate his better work more.
It's similar on a superficial level to the very sad end of Bruce Willis's career. He
Yes.
took a bunch of trash films, but he was taking trash films to, take care of his family. And,
because he had a serious degenerative brain condition.
Right. But you come to appreciate his film work, and it's not just Die Hard. Like, everyone's like, oh, Die Hard. It's like, no. All the things he did, because he did a bunch of movies. As a for instance, even though Ty didn't like it so much compared to the others, a while back we were watching all of the classic monster movies. We weren't watching the originals, which are good in their own right? Like, don't think I am not a fan of the black and whites, but like, we watched Bram Stoker's Dracula, we watched The Wolfman with Anthony Hopkins and Benicio del Toro, and we watched Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I love Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I do, in fact, believe it is the most book-accurate depiction.
I think De Niro's performance as the creature was excellent.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, De Niro is on point in doing something that he is not known for, right? Like, that is a far stretch of his acting ability, and he does well with it, right? And then it's got the Mad Irishman, whose name is just falling out of my head, but I love him in everything he's in. As the Doctor.
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh. And Kenneth Branagh is, again, excellent. They understood the homework, which is that the book is a picture of the Doctor is the monster, and the creature is a response to everything negative and positive that Frankenstein did, right? But that movie is famously hated, and it bombed at release.
Mm-hmm.
It destroyed the smaller print film company American Zoanthrope, which had made other really good horror movies. If people are looking for their sort of fading grace Logan era De Niro run, go check out Frankenstein.
That's a better feel. You get to watch De Niro in the apex of his craftsmanship.
Well, especially because, as early as, I want to say, 10 years ago, he was in that comedy where he did a musical number in a fake Dunkin' Donuts.
That'd be Al Pacino as Dunkin'.
Oh, Al Pacino, yeah. But still, like, everybody mocked it, as you should. And De Niro and Pacino are sort of the mob guys because they're all the same era with Joe Pesci and the guy from No Escape who died. Fuck. But they're all Godfather and Raging Bull era actors that we're gonna lose.
Yep, everybody who was famous and iconic at a certain point in time is passing from this world. But you know what didn't pass from this world yet?
Snow White.
No, it's the movie G20. Are you familiar with this movie?
I am not. I have not heard about this at all. Is this some of the
All
trash
right,
you watched?
this is some of the trash I watched. So
Well,
let me.
actually, let's amend. Real quick, would you say Alto Knights is actually trash, or just not fully formed, or they just didn't give it a chance? Real talk.
I think the problem ultimately is the movie hangs on De Niro. He's not able to do the kind of performance physically that the movie demands. So they have to kind of work around the fact that he's old as fuck.
Okay, but you would not actually say it's trash so much as it's
No.
damaged goods.
Damaged goods and makes you feel sad.
Okay.
Now, G20 is trash. So let me paint a picture for you.
It's actual trash.
Let me paint an actual picture for you. What if, right? We have Die Hard, but instead of it being John McClane, it's President of the United States. And
Oh no, I did hear about this movie. I just didn't follow up on it because, see, I grew up with a movie called Air Force One, which was the exact same thing, but with Kurt Russell, and was way better.
no, that was Harrison Ford.
No, that's Kurt Russell was the president in Air Force One. John Leguizamo was
Did Harrison Ford and Kurt Russell do the same kind of movie?
They may have done similar movies, but John Leguizamo was an army guy, and of all people, I want to say Steven Seagal dies in the first 10 minutes.
Oh no, that's a different movie. Air Force One is Harrison Ford. Movie you're thinking of is Executive Decision.
Executive. So it is. Okay, but did they come out at the same time, or am I just completely off my rocker?
They did come out the same year.
Okay, so that is probably the source of the confusion, because I mean that's many moons ago. But it's still a better movie because it's Die Hard on a plane with Kurt Russell.
Yep. So
does that mean Air Force One is a Die Hard on a plane with Harrison Ford?
Yes.
But he's not playing Jack Ryan in that.
He is not. He is not.
That seems like a mistake to me. Like, he should have been playing Jack Ryan.
I mean, you can headcanon as Jack Ryan. It makes sense, a certain kind of sense.
Well, without segueing into an entirely different subject, it is really rough for me to decide which Jack Ryan I like more, because I know it's not the kid from Star Trek. He can go eat a dick. But Harrison Ford and Alec Baldwin, that's a close fight.
And I think Alec Baldwin really is kind of closer to the book.
I think he is closer to the book, but if I recall correctly, either they didn't want him for Patriot Games, or
he was money in the scheduling. I think.
Yeah, he didn't want to. He either couldn't or didn't want to come back following Hunt for Red October, and I actually think that was a horrible mistake. Not because I don't love Harrison Ford being awesome; it's Harrison Ford, but I don't. Do you recall when Alec Baldwin at least temporarily retired?
Yes.
Do you recall what he said?
I do not.
He said that he was retiring because he had felt that he had basically done everything he could do, and that no character in major film that he'd ever done had ever really hit the mark. He basically was saying, I don't think my career ever went where I wanted it to. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But Alec Baldwin was the Shadow. Alec Baldwin was Jack Ryan. Alec Baldwin was really good in a bunch of movies. And I think it's kind of sad that he never got that A-list leading man status that he probably freaking deserved.
And also, realistically, we should have had more Shadow movies with Alec Baldwin.
Yes.
So, G20. Here's your
Yeah.
pitch. What if Die Hard? It's at a G20 meeting where the president
Right.
of the United States has to save world leaders, and she's a black lady, and also her sassy black family's involved.
So I'm just gonna cut the quick and ask the question: Is it Diet Kamala?
No,
Okay, I
because
mean,
she can actually form coherent sentences.
well, no. I mean, were they trying to make a Kamala Harris reference with a female
Well,
black president woman that is also going to be in a Die Hard?
so
goal?
there is a theory that we were able to have Obama because of 24, because of President Palmer.
I think that's a okay. I'm not gonna say that's wrong because like I can see that, but I think that is a grievously undermining statement to layer at President Obama, who, whether you like him or not, I mean, the man was a constitutional scholar and he was a able statesman before he tried his presidential run. I wouldn't undermine his accomplishments by saying, oh, we just did him because he's Diet Palmer.
No. The argument is that President Palmer in 24 made America comfortable and willing to accept the idea of a black president.
I don't think that's good for us either. I think that implies that we are a super bigoted country, that we're only okay with things if they're on TV. That's kind of bullshit.
I don't like that answer either, but that's the thesis argument for why we have a Kamala-like presidential thing.
Right.
So it's very on point. You mentioned Homelander earlier, because guess who's the villain?
Homelander.
Who is a villain who's from Australian Special Forces.
Why is the Australian Special Forces out to get us?
I don't know. This is the second thing I've seen that's gone through streaming that the Australians are the villains. It's weird. I don't understand it, and I don't like it.
Well, I'm gonna make a weirdly specific argument. You could just as readily say South Africans have the same accent and no one would notice.
But the setting was South Africa. And they couldn't have white South African bad guys as part of the PMC in South Africa.
Why the fuck not?
Because that would make the audience ask questions.
No, it wouldn't. No,
we have an Australian PMC.
No. Roll it back here for a minute. We're talking about old movies, which I think again is contemporaneous. Let's see here. Okay, 1989. So 5 years before Executive Decision, roughly, right? Lethal Weapon 2. Okay, our bad guys are white people in the South African government trafficking money and drugs, right?
But that's okay, because that was back when South Africa was an evil country. Now it's a country run by magical black people.
Right, but here's the thing. I'm not making excuses for their bad storytelling. Okay, it's still bad. All right, but let's put ourselves in the writing room for a minute. Okay, you want to do a movie about black people fighting bad guys, and you want to have a racial component to it, right? Why make your bad guys Australians who basically have no fucking problem with us, right? And are in fact are nominally our allies in the nascent growing conflict with China in a trade dispute, because China has actually said it's like they think that Australia should be part of China, and Australia has said eat a dick, dumb shit, right?
Also, Australia has not only been one of our allies, they actually went into the Vietnam War to help us out.
Right. Why do that when you could make $1 billion, okay, having your movie set in South Africa with magical black people that are good guys, right? And when you say, but these evil white guys are from South Africa too, you say, yes, they are a PMC made up of remnants of our evil past. They're basically one step removed from a resurgent Nazi party.
Joe. if only the antagonist motivations made that much sense.
Oh, I know that they're probably retarded, but I'm just saying you could do that. You wouldn't have to explain anything to anyone. No one would question it. The righties wouldn't have a problem with it. The lefties wouldn't have a problem with it. And anybody who said, "Oh, it's another movie with evil white men," would be like, "Wait, why are you in favor of the fucking evil regime? What's wrong with you?"
Well, so the PMC was blowback for stuff in the global war on terror,
Of course.
and part of the anti-globalist populism thing that's going on. And the whole fight is over the fact that the president of the United States is trying to make up a scheme with cryptocurrency to fund poor farmers in Africa.
I mean, he doesn't have
And
to do that,
right, that's what the president's doing.
but he doesn't have to do that.
Well, the president's a woman,
But she doesn't
and
have to do that, Larry.
look. If she doesn't do that scheme, Joe, PMC can't steal the cryptocurrency.
Oh, okay. So this is literally a contrivance for a movie has to happen.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
It's retarded, but I'll accept it.
and the bad guys use all the world leaders and use AI to generate deep fakes of the world leaders saying, yes, we are evil and corrupt, and we're using our corrupt things to enrich ourselves and keep all the power and keep the poor schmucks underfoot.
Okay.
Now,
And
Joe,
this works. Why?
well, hold up. We haven't got that far yet. Now,
Oh.
Joe, how do you think they let us know that this is the villain scheme?
They tell us directly and possibly speaking directly to the camera.
Yes, and you know who tells it? It's the president of South Korea.
Okay. How did South Korea find it out?
Well, they were one of the world leaders of the G20, and they were asked to read a series of words that enabled you to have all of the different vocal inflections and movements of the mouth, thus enabling the AI to fake anything. And the bad guy said, of course, expect this president of South Korea to be tech savvy.
You mean because he's Asian or because he's actually intelligent?
Because South Korea is a major tech power as a country.
Okay, because I mean I'm open to either, but we are talking about incredibly bigoted writing by hacks, so I had to ask.
Yes. So their scheme is to make deep fakes of world leaders to promote global panic and having people withdraw all their money from the banking system, thus forcing cryptocurrency to be the only kind of money that works in the world.
And that's gonna work.
Well, no, it's not going to work because that's retarded. But the movie wants you to think that's going to work.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. Do you know why that's not gonna work?
Why is that not going to work?
Not because of any systems we have in place, not because of all of the government agencies that announce it, not because of all of the practical reasons that that's not doable. Okay. I watched a video earlier today by a guy that Ayrton doesn't like very much because he thinks he's a smug little shit. Milo Rossi talking about a recent Egyptology conspiracy theory that has gotten very popular about the idea that under the pyramid of Khufu, or Khafre, there's a bunch of pillars, and there may in fact be city scale construction of some sort under the pyramid that we've never seen, which is both not supported by science, has had no research done for it, and all of the images you can find of it are AI generated artificial theories, not practical, right? And scientists are having a real hard time right now because they're both trying to denounce the conspiracy theory, which is making all the jumps, like, this is the proof that the pyramids are batteries with electricity, right? And also trying to say, no, the technology is interesting. That needs refinement. The idea that we could use a satellite in space to possibly study what's going on under the planet is an interesting idea.
We've been doing
right?
it for like 10 years.
Right, but usually we use ground radar and we use it on our
No.
level.
No. We've been using satellites for 10 years doing it.
Right, but what these scientists specifically did is they said we can't actually scan under the earth because the technology available is not very good, but using two disparate technologies, one that can study under the earth kinda, and one that actually studies movement, right? Like the vibrational movement of objects underground, we can extrapolate an image. And it's like that's interesting. That's an interesting science. But the important thing here is that Milo was talking about people not having very good uh, scientific awareness or study or language, right?
I
Now,
mean, you don't need
basically,
to.
no, just the idea that you basically need to arm people with critical thinking skills, because if you don't, then they will even innocently fall for the dumbest shit available, right?
I mean,
You got people taking this bit of information they found on the internet and then opening their Bible as a credible source of scientific input.
I mean,
Right.
deep
Uh,
fakes are. I've yet to find one that looks
well,
real.
well, that's the thing though, is that this plan in this film doesn't work because most people, even people that would gleefully buy a stupid conspiracy theory, are cynical enough to look at a deep fake of a presidential figure or a world leader and go, nah. To the extent that you can't actually enjoy celebrity porn anymore because you could put up a photo of an actual celebrity being naked and people would say it's a deep fake because they can't
I
tell the
mean,
difference anymore.
as somebody who's worked with AI art tools, you could tell. It's not even
Right,
close.
right. If you're studied, you can tell. But we're talking about the mom and pops in front of their TV, right? Their trust of the government is already so low,
Hmm.
right? Our faith in our ruling body is so bad, right? That
And it should be.
I think you could honestly tell them something that is true and honest and dangerous, and we would say you're lying.
So the U.S. president, the prime minister slash president of Italy, and the British prime minister and the prime minister of Japan, I believe I said,
Yeah,
were the ones who are led away by the American president, who does the Die Hard thing with her trusted lead Secret Service agent.
okay.
Meanwhile, uh, her sassy black daughter, who loves the science and the engineering and the computer stuff, uh, uses practical escape room skills to break out of the secure hotel room and avoid the criminal bad guys and report vital intelligence information back to American security forces led by Vice President Coulson, as the actor played Coulson from the MCU,
Yeah.
doing a bad Tim Waltz impression. It's just really a flat version of his own performance for most of his work. But hey, money's money. Their dad, who is the soulful, saint, kind of heavyset black guy, beats up a whole bunch of people to protect his kids. Also gets beaten up, but he survives somehow. And then the U.S. military comes in, shoots the terrorists. The president with body armor, shoots the lead terrorist. The cryptocurrency falls into the ocean, which I'm assuming, billions in fake money go away, and those poor farmers in Africa can't get fed. And her family, which was in crisis at the start of the movie, comes together because of the current political and social crisis of the terrorism. That's the movie. It is not good.
No, that sounds pretty poor.
So That's yeah, G20. Not a good movie. Don't recommend it. It's bad.
It's bad and makes us feel bad. But that
Well,
was
no.
only the second piece of your trash. You said you
Right.
watched 3 pieces of trash.
Yeah, and one
Ju-
wasn't really
just
trash.
just when you
One.
but just when you think it's over, we pull you back in.
So we have Doctor Who, and Doctor Who is back, and it's bad. It's very, very bad. Like Judy Gott was 10 years. Doctor Who made me say, "Oh, so I owe Judy Whittaker an apology." This was not the worst performance for Doctor Who that could have been generated. And I thought, surely he couldn't give another terrible performance. Boy, was I wrong. But
I want to restate for the audience what I said in the chat. As long as people want to line up and suck on that blackened, rotten teat of sour milk, they can have Russell T Davies' chunky tit butter.
So let's start with the many problems with this episode. And the problem is the companion. So the companion, they're trying to do a reverse Clara Oswald mixed with Adana Noble, but without any of the social charisma of either of those two actresses' performances. Do you know enough Doctor Who to understand what I just said to you?
No, I mean I know that he has various companions and that there are eras of companion just like there are eras of Doctor Who.
Yes.
But if you're referring to specific companions, it is somewhat lost on me.
So Donna Noble was a working class British woman who was connected to a guy who had played in several Doctor Who series as this was his daughter, who was running away from her wedding, ended up getting involved with the Doctor and his shenanigans, and she discovered, her real strength inside, yada yada yada, that sort of thing. And she took the piss out of the Doctor as a character. She didn't take him too seriously.
Well,
Clara
I mean,
Oswald.
until you see Another World and some of the stuff the Doctor gets in, I can understand people being like, "Are you kidding?"
So, Clara Oswald was known as the Impossible Girl. She was impossible because the Doctor saw her die at one point in time and found her in another. Oh, excuse me, she died at 2 points in time and he found her in another. What ended up happening is Clara Oswald traveled through the Doctor's timeline, saving him at multiple points in his life from terrible, terrible consequences. So they're doing a reverse Clara Oswald where the Doctor traveled through her timeline. And they decided this character is going to be a nurse. And they're going to play into the trope of nurses feeling underappreciated and looked down upon by the doctors. So, what, from your experience with writing and creating characters, is the challenge that this character, as I've outlined her to you, presents?
All right, run that by me again.
What is the challenge this character, as I've just outlined it to you, presents as you're presenting it to an audience?
A character that doesn't take the Doctor for very serious. And a character that has died and come back and has actually been helping the Doctor in secret for the entire time of their existence.
No, this is the reverse. This is the reverse. The Doctor's traveled through her timeline and experienced her whole life with her. But,
I mean, that's a little fucking creepy.
And she's also a nurse who feels underappreciated and put upon by doctors. These 3 pillars, what do you think?
I think this is all a bad idea, but presumably you're going somewhere with this, because, again, it sounds a little creepy.
Well, yes, but we're going to get to that. Do you think one of the things that this character needs to be is likable?
I mean, if you're talking main characters, they should always be likable unless there's a specific reason they are not.
Okay. So this character being extremely grating and off-putting, more so than any other companion character the 60-plus years of the Doctor Who series. And there have been some off-putting companions. You think that would be a bad choice, right?
All right, let me answer your question by a small segue. Segue. Wow. There's a guy I watch on YouTube called Feral Historian. I think we've talked about him before in the past.
He's pretty great.
He did a video. I want to say the second video because I've seen at least one other about it recently about Blake 7.
Yes, I just watched that recently.
Yeah. None of the characters in Blake 7 sound very likable, right? But you could argue
they were in season 1.
Well, I'll just say you could argue that's time period, or that's the fact that it's BBC, or you could argue it's any number of factors. But at the end of the day, right? You can have a character that is rife with bigotry, with misunderstanding, with falsehood, with human weaknesses, and still like them.
Yes.
Right? So when we say likable, we're not saying they have to be some thumb-sucking moron that only says what pleases the audience. Right? What we're saying is that they have to meet that baseline level of human acceptability. Right? A good example of this, I kid you not. I saw a clip from The Blacklist recently. Right? And if you've watched anything of The Blacklist, you basically know that James Spader's character of Reddington is a monster. Right? He's a monster who cut a deal with the government to not have to pay for his crimes while doing crimes to help them catch bigger monsters. Right? But the trade-off of the show, the sort of thesis of the show, is that when you really dig into it, he's kind of a postmodern Robin Hood figure. Because he isn't a monster to people who don't deserve it, right? He's just exploiting the systems that we put in place that we are incapable of managing, right? So when he encounters somebody who's basically a good egg, he'll rob them 100%, but he won't go out of his way to hurt or harm them because they're just a person living their life. And in fact, he kind of appreciates people who have expertise, excellent people or intelligent people or capable people, right? He goes into a bar full of white supremacists, asks where their boss is, and when they won't give him up, he says he's going to give money to the first guy who does. And one of them's like, bro, that's a lot of money, let's take it. And the other guys are like, no. So he shoots one of them. Like stone dead. Right? And then says, okay, you must be the winner. Tell me what I want to know. When the guy gives him up, he's like, okay, here's your money. Because that was the agreement. Right? You can like Raymond Reddington, even though James Spader's character is a scumbag. So there was this clip I saw where he's going to go talk to one of his quote-unquote old friends, which is really someone he's going to threaten and do bad things to. But the guy is super rich, and he's driving a car on his private racetrack like a giant dick. Right? And his girlfriend is there, right? At least I don't recall if she's the girlfriend. She could be related in some other fashion. But anyway, she's there, and she is the most disaffected, cynical, nasty, unpleasant bitch, right? Yeah. And Reddington basically opines very cleverly to her that the difference between she and him, while he's holding up this guy, is that he doesn't require to be unpleasant to make up for the lack of a personality. Right? Because he's basically pointing out that she's scummy and unpleasant and nasty because she thinks that if she can insult enough people that they get offended, that she wins. Right? And she can make fun of him being older and perhaps not being up to stuff in a number of personal ways, but she will never be on his level because he's Raymond fucking Reddington. Right? And that's a solid scene. In that same sense, the Doctor is a fantastic space adventurer, man. Right? I don't explicitly have a problem with Doctor Who taking interest in various people and maybe watching their
Hmm.
lives as they pass
Hmm.
by because he is so very lonely and isolated, right?
Well,
You
the
know,
companions are a
but
little different for Doctor Who, but
but the thing
she.
is that the persons that he takes interest in should have something redeeming about them that
Mhm.
makes them interesting. And if you're trying to sell me on the idea that his interest is in nasty bitch because she's nasty,
Well, no, that's not
why?
why he's interested in her.
Well, it's why the writers say you need to be interested because she's clearly a powerful, independent woman who don't need no doctor,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And the thing is that that doesn't sell. Okay,
She
let's
talks about being gaslit while actively gaslighting everybody around her.
let's go back to season one with Eggleston, and I say season one
Hmm.
because that was the jumping off point for the new Doctor Who, right? Rose
Back then.
is definitionally a strong, independent English female in London who don't need no man, and still goes off with the Doctor to have space adventures because she understands that the only way she's going to get out of the rat race is to go with the tall, dark stranger.
Yes. So the the whole episode is about a world where a human-like alien species is being oppressed by robots.
Okay, I mean,
Now, I know what you.
I'm about to do that. I've been playing Stellaris for the afternoon while we were on this, and I'm about to invade a planet of primitives.
Yes.
So,
And these robots go to Earth to steal this young Hindu Indian nurse lady from London because they're on a planet on a star that was registered in her name by her boyfriend. Thus, the planet is named after the star, and it's named after her, and she's the queen of the planet.
is that how monarchy works?
It does there. This is the second dumbest sci-fi monarchy that I've ever heard of. The dumbest, of course, being in Jupiter Ascending. Because by sheer random probability, you have the exact same DNA composition as the person who was the ruler of this section of space, so it's yours because your genes are the same.
Yeah, I don't actually think that's how that works, but
No, no, not neither of these things are how it works. And so these robots go to steal this lady, and Doctor Who tries to catch up to her before the robots steal her.
for reasons.
Well, because Doctor Who had met one of her descendants 3,000 years in the future, and he was curious about this person.
I mean, that's nice.
But both the aliens and Doctor Who go through a time oopsie doopsie. And in her transit from Earth to the planet, she tells the robots to go steal her ex boyfriend. Now I know what you're thinking, but why, Larry? Why would she do that? Well, he's the one who bought the star certificate, so it's really his responsibility to respond to these robots, not hers. This becomes important later, and she's taken to the space robot planet, where she's informed by one of the humans that this is her planet, she's the queen, and everybody obeys the robots. All humans do. And then, instead of just letting that linger and having dread and stuff happen, they then have the robots blow up rebels, so that we know, oh hey, this is a British dystopia with traces of American dystopia. You don't need to go, what do you mean obey the robots? And in Doctor Who, there are multiple races of evil robots. This is a brand new one. And she goes in and is told that their historian is going to explain their society to her. The historian is being played by the Doctor, who's been stuck on this planet for like 6 months and has slowly been working his way up to the head of the anti-robot resistance.
I mean, they're robots, right?
Hmm?
So why do you need a historian to explain your society to your new monarch? Why wouldn't you just implant that information with a cybernetic prosthesis?
That's the different alien robots from Doctor Who. And we're not using those robots.
I see. Here I go asking logical questions. I really shouldn't do that.
Yes, and it will be explained, but not in a satisfactory way.
All will be explained in another movie that will not happen.
Oh no, this is all explained in this episode. So you're going to hear the explanation. You're not going to like that. So as the Doctor explains things to her, he lets her know that the robots can't hear every ninth word that you say.
The fuck?
That also gets explained.
Okay, yes, please explain that to me now, because otherwise I'm going to have a conniption fit.
So the AI that controls the computer that runs the robots has a glitch. It's running on 8 ticks. So anything that goes more than 8 ticks falls out of its AI understanding. Now, it tells you this, and our character, the Doctor, says something using the ninth word of every sentence. Now then, do you think our character, the nurse, our new character, our new audience viewpoint character, that we give her time to go, well, that's kind of weird how he's saying everything.
No.
Wait.
We have been told you have to keep things moving and things have to go faster. Noise and light.
So
Thank you, Alex Kurtzman.
So yes, they explain, they tell, instead of letting the character show intelligence and figure this out herself. And so she in turn has to respond to the Doctor using this principle that will only come back into play one time later in the show. So how do you think she says something every ninth word?
I have no idea, because this is so retarded. It is retarded. It is a black hole of retardation.
She counts on her fingers, and she says very, very, very several times.
Okay, not only is that dumb child logic, but can I point out the native flaw here?
Yes.
You have machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
The machines cannot, for whatever reason, for your plot to happen, track every ninth word.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean they also cannot track every ninth digit?
In theory, yes.
Because otherwise, I am a robot. I see her counting on her fingers. She says things, and I cannot hear them, but I see her mouth moving. I understand that there has been a vocalization because I can track the vibrations of sound waves, and I see the motion of counting on her fingers. I'm going to now utilize my advanced technology to put together what words I missed.
Oh, the robots aren't that intelligent.
Right, but I'm saying I'm a human being. I am a flesh bag, and I understand the principle that I might be able to put this together. But a vast race of world-conquering machines can't.
Yes, but that will also be explained later.
Okay. All right. Sure. Take me away, Kevin Feige.
And the Doctor and the plucky rebels try to steal Miss Melinda Chandra from her circumstances, including the person who the Doctor promised to make his next companion. You know what happened to her?
No.
She got disintegrated. So the person who's happy, who says, I've learned to trust the Doctor like a brother and a best friend, gets disintegrated. So what this shows is like, hey, the character you want to see be the companion for the Doctor, yeah, we're going to murder her in the first show. Isn't it great? And so our audience viewpoint protagonist is led by the Doctor and the surviving rebels to the rebel base camp. And she asks questions that if you've not being in a medical setting seem like something a person in a medical setting says. She asks if the IV bags are liquid or medicine.
But they're IV bags. Even if it's medical, they're all liquids. That's why you put it in a drip.
Yes. Yes. And she asks the doctor, do alien shoulders work the same as human shoulders? And the doctor says, pretty much.
I mean, that's almost on brand for the Doctor, since Gallifreyans are basically human, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. And then she uses the X-ray blanket to get to see what the inside of the alien looks like.
Okay.
And then see the inside of the doctor using an X-ray blanket. And they talk about, xenobiology. And she asks the doctor which is better. And he goes, oh, if you think one kind of body is better than the other, you're going down a dark path.
Get fucked. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But she realizes that her being here has caused problems for these people. So what does she decide to do? She gets the cleaning droid that they stole, reactivates it so the evil robots can come and take her away.
For reasons.
Yes. But before that happens, they discuss a plot MacGuffin. She has her magical certificate of ownership of this star. And the magical certificate of ownership of the star that the robots have is the exact same item. And you can't have two of the exact same items touched in the same point in time.
Right. I saw Back to the Future too.
Yes. So kaboom. Where we're using Back to the Future logic, just like the Marvel movies.
Well, remember, the Marvel movies didn't use Back to the Future logic. They specifically called out Back to the Future logic, then used Back to the Future logic.
Exactly. And so our secondary protagonist goes to meet the head AI that wants to marry her and make her a union of flesh and machine. And for anybody who's watching this, who's a Doctor Who fan, you will know that there is a specific race of robots that are Doctor Who aliens. They're like, well, why aren't they using the Cybermen? That's literally the Cybermen's thing. Well, we're going to finally get into that now. And he addresses her as Miss Belinda Chandra. And she says, you can drop the Chandra. Just call me Belinda. You don't need to call me Mrs. You call me Miss. And the AI asks, why? Are you married? Which was the line her boyfriend said to her when he gave her the star thing. And then we learned that she had a horrible, toxic relationship with her boyfriend.
Because it's always a horrible, toxic relationship with the boyfriend.
Yes, who wanted to marry her, but have her not dress so sluttily, not go out after 8:30, and not allow him to see her text messages. And
right,
her boyfriend
because if they're not physically abusive, the answer of what is your toxic relationship with your boyfriend is he wants to be my dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's always how it is.
And this is a white boyfriend with an Indian woman, even though that is more likely from cultural perspectives to be somebody from her same culture. But we can't portray that negatively on the BBC.
So I don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but I just want to mention this. There is a young lady in Louisiana who's interested in me.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Joe talks to people. And when you say Joe, how can you really know it's a young woman in Louisiana? We've spoken on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Not just random photos, not just exchange textual conversations where it could totally be a dude catfishing. Like if this was a catfish, my god, the scam is amazing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about certain emotional components. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that she's into me is because I am willing to say things to her that men in her area will not. Right? She likes the fact that I'm polite and gentlemanly and know how to be a decent fucking human being. Right? But she also likes the fact that I am not programmed in the way of many deep South Southern gentlemen to only do that, right?
Mhm.
And that's not a dig at people from the South. That's not a dig at people from the North. That's not me saying she's a kinky weirdo and kind of sleazy. What I'm saying is that in the South, there's a certain expectation from very young that you're supposed to mind your P's and Q's, say your yes sirs or no sirs, and act with a certain decorum, which means
Yes.
that there's a certain sameness to the young men that she encounters in her area, right? I am not one of those. She is interested in that. That's cool.
Yes.
We make that work.
So,
The reason I bring this up is there are women, right,
mhm.
who want a daddy and would not think that it is an inappropriate relationship to have a paternal or a patriarchal male figure in the household,
Or
right?
dominating.
Right. Just like there are absolutely women who don't want that.
Mhm.
But the other important component of this is that there are men who don't want that. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
that they want to be dominated by women. That's where everyone jumps. I'm saying there are men who don't want to be in charge in their relationship.
They
Right?
don't want that. They don't want that mental hassle.
Right. It's not even that you can't have a relationship that is toxic in media or that you can't have a woman who wants to get out of that relationship. Those things are fine. My critique is, why does it have to be the exact same fucking structure every time? Because what it boils down to, again, if they are not physically abusive, which everyone understands is a good reason to get the fuck out of Dodge,
Mhm.
right? It essentially boils down to, I settled for this and gave up on my dreams. A
Mhm.
choice the woman made,
Mhm.
but he's an asshole for having done it to me.
Yes.
That that's not how that works. That sounds like deflecting culpability and making other people responsible for your bad fucking decisions.
So, the big reveal happens, and it is in fact her boyfriend. It's not the AI generator. It's Al, which is
Wait,
his name.
wait. The boyfriend is the robot.
The boyfriend is the AI that controls all the robots.
So shitty robot boyfriend spent years treating the girl like shit when she was the queen of their planet,
No, no. He treated her like that when they were both teenagers on Earth.
and then became a robot and continued in that vein.
Yes, and he became a robot because she told the robots to kidnap him, but the robots went further back in the past and kidnapped him first. And then this young man who's disaffected because his girlfriend didn't want to marry him, got focused on video games, decided to treat a virtual reality
Of course,
interface where you can control
of
the
course he
robots
did.
as a video game.
It's always fucking video games are the problem. Of course, he
And
says
and
playing a video game.
and of course, this is an incel allegory. So this being a piece of modern media, of course, they said they called it Planet of the Incels. Our female viewpoint character called it that.
That's kind of bad.
It is. It is. But Joe, it gets worse. Remember how I said that every ninth word thing only comes back into play one other time?
Yes.
This the other time. The boyfriend robot controller guy is asking to be put out of his misery.
Why?
Because he's become more machine than man.
Okay, I mean, I almost get that.
And so they touch the two certificates together. A little explosion happens. The doctor who absorbs it goes into her timeline and experiences her whole life. And then all of a sudden, everything's fine. The robots aren't evil anymore. And they're helping the humans rebuild their planet. And they give the Doctor back his spaceship.
That's how that works.
This isn't the end, however. So she's like, hey, listen, you took my DNA information without my consent. That's not cool. And the Doctor's like, oh, I'm totally sorry. I shouldn't have done that. My bad. And then she's like, I demand you take me home right now. And the Doctor proceeds to attempt to do that. But then this time and space machine she has never experienced before doesn't work. She automatically assumes he's just lying to her and begins to emotionally manipulate him. He eventually figures out that he's not going to be able to go to her home directly so she can be on her next shift at work. They're going to have to take the long way around. So she doesn't want to be an adventurer. She doesn't want to go to the adventure hook that the GM set up. But the damn time machine doesn't work, so she's going to have to anyway.
For reasons.
For reasons. Because otherwise we wouldn't have a TV series that Disney paid money for.
Well, see, again, it could almost work in another universe, in another place. You have a character who wants to live in the world with the practicalities that they understand and feel comfortable with, who doesn't want to be a space adventurer, wrapped up in space adventures, who is frustrated by the experience. But then that's what you use Doctor Who for, to help them have a revelatory experience where they're like, you know what? The universe is kind of neat. And maybe I should give this, like, seeing the world outside a chance, you know?
Exactly. So, yeah, that's Doctor Who. It was terrible, and it's only going to get worse until we get to the end of this season, and then everything's going to go on a hiatus for another 5 to 7 years. All the hardworking craftsmen and artisans who helped make this TV show, all of them
Larry,
are going to lose their
Larry,
job.
don't you lie.
Well, no, there are actually hardworking artists and craftsmen who work on the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're talking about the lower staff, not the people with golden parachutes who are going to go on to do other terrible things.
Not only are they going to, they're already in those new jobs.
Yeah.
The actor, Ncuti Gatwa, allegedly was complaining that he doesn't want this show crashing and burning to ruin his Hollywood career because he already has lots of open calls for other roles in Hollywood. So Doctor Who's going to take a little nap, and they'll probably wake it up in time for the 75th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe throw in a special here and there to give it an illusion of continuity. So that's the reviews, and Church and Ayrton got the best of it by not being here.
They did, although I think they missed some fun giggles.
They did.
And oddly enough, I am getting it in the neck for speaking truth on the internet yet again. How dare I have reasonable fucking opinions? So do you know Ares Chronicles?
I do not.
Ares Chronicles is a guy working on a tabletop game. It's neat. Like, people should check it out. But he asked a random question just before game, and or just before podcast, and I answered it. He said, "Has this hobby become a mockery of itself? I got into D&D because I like dragons and knights and castles and towers and old maps and trees and forest beasts and hobbits and magic rings. Does anyone care about that anymore? Everything seems to be twisted around somehow. Where has your imagination gone? Your sense of wonder that made you want to play these games to begin with? Surely something can save you yet." Right? So I made a comment. And mind you, this is my opinion. Okay? I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying this is my opinion. I said, when the tourists invaded, they made a mockery of the game by trying to turn it into Candyland. The response by those seeking to preserve it was so extreme, so total, that we've come to the point where people are anti-imagination and anti-romance, in favor of dour human drudgery, and call it the one true way. You can't have fantastic cultures, or lands, or strange creatures, and whoa if you want to play one, because owning the libs somehow means being mean and narrow-minded, becoming everything they said we are. I like to be hopeful. I like to believe tabletop RPGs will heal, but only once the mainstream stops caring and talking heads lose their platform. When we stop listening to the majority and start listening to ourselves, what we know inside, then games will flourish. I think that's a solid, somewhat hopeful, if perhaps naive opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately, while we were sitting here on stream, some douchebag named Douglas Barrio, right, who
Mm-hmm.
who claims, quote, TTRPGs for life, Ren Fair pirate, worshiper of the Church of Music, Nazi punks, fuck off, right? Said anyone that doesn't like to play the way that I think things should be played is a, checks buzzword list, tourist. I'm sorry, did I actually assert at any time that there was a one true way to play and that was my way, or did I simply say that negative people came in and that the counter reaction to those negative people was equally bad, and that games have been hurt as a result? Because I don't seem to recall actually asserting a one true way.
Well, I think for the two of us holding up the 10 poll for today, I think that's enough content, because I really think doing 2 hours with two people is a bit much.
I mean, we could ramble for hours, Larry. It's you and me, but
Yes, but I mean, something that's quality for the people to watch would be another thing. So check us out next week, where hopefully Church and Ayrton are available.
we tear down this gospel and give it to you, the people.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.